Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Vexor Navy issue in the context of solo nullsec PvP. This ship is probably the strongest brawler in the entire Navy cruiser line. The potential damage output from this ship is properly ridiculous, and it'll happily destroy pretty much any T1 or faction cruiser it can catch, as well as many hacks and Tech 1 BCs. The Vexor Navy issue is capable of well over 700 DPS, which when coupled with the ship's 25% drone speed and tracking bonus allow this ship to deal solid damage even to small unwebbed targets with heavy drones, which in turn allows this ship to fit a viable shield tank. I'm probably repeating myself a bit here, but never underestimate this ship, because if you do, it will likely end with you getting spanked all the way back to the clone bay. It goes without saying that the VNI is superb at dispatching ratters. It can quickly drop almost any ratting subcap you can catch before their backup arrives, and this can be a big deal if you like to make money while roaming by killing ratters and selling their dank loots. The Vexor Navy issue has a 4-4-6 slot layout and can be either armor or shield tanked with the obvious trade-offs. Shield fits can generally achieve higher DPS and mobility, but armor fits can fit more control and utility mods in the mids, such as cap boosters and more tackle. It gets a 10% damage bonus to all drones, as well as 5% to drone microwarp velocity, not orbit velocity, and 5% to drone tracking speed. We'll look at a couple of commonly used versions, starting with my personal favorite, the XLASB. First, let's consider the stats of this roughly 100mm ship and fit. This fit does just shy of 3 km a second with a 3.9 second align time and has 754 DPS. Just let that sink in. 754. We get 19k EHP with an additional 33k from the XLASB with a blue pill and a 148 meter sig radius. This fit uses either double medium newts or a single newt and a NOS, whichever you prefer. Microwarp, XLASB, Scram and Invuln, Nano, coprocessor, triple DDA and a damage control, and we use a Tech 2 overclocking rig and EM thermal resist rigs. This fit needs a 2% CPU implant, which costs around 5mm and uses slot 6. Always use a blue pill with this fit. You miss out on a lot of tank without it, and the penalties are largely irrelevant even if you roll them. Bring at least 5 heavy drones, or 2 geckos, 2 mediums and 1 light if you're rich, as your main DPS wing. If you're going for heavies, your choice is largely a matter of personal preference. I like ogres for their huge DPS, although some people use wasps for similar DPS and much better shield tank, allowing your drones to regen most of their tank after a fight whilst in your drone bay. Praetors and berserkers have slightly lower potential DPS, but can apply their damage better than ogres and wasps to smaller and faster targets due to their superior tracking and speed. I like to bring 6 heavies total, so I've got 1 spare, and 2 flights of lights, generally acolytes and hobs. If you can't use Tech 2 heavy drones, don't feel bad. Training to heavy drones to 5 is a serious pain in the stack, but in the meantime, use Fed Navy ogres. They're pretty cheap and do the job pretty well. Some of the key points of this fit for me are 1, the obviously enormous DPS, 2, a solid tank, and 3, good top speed and great agility for catching targets, escaping gangs, and separating tackle. It's also one of the most basic brawlers you can fly. Use the MWD for positioning and catching targets, launch and engage drones, overheat newt for a few cycles and manage your ASB, pull and relaunch your drones when they take damage, and that's about it. Positioning after committing to a brawl is not as relevant as turret-based brawlers because our ability to apply damage isn't affected by our ship's movement, unlike turret-based ships. Our incoming damage is of course affected by our piloting, but we don't have a lot of control over our positioning during a fight anyway, since we have no AB or web. We don't have any mechanism other than the newt to escape once committed. We're relying on our insane DPS to kill everything and get the duck out of fudge before anybody knows what hit them. The second variant we'll look at is the oversized AB twin rep fit. Here we use 2 small newts and 2 small NOS, but feel free to flavor your high slots to taste. We use a Fed Navy 100mn AB or a monopropellant version if you don't want to spring 70mm for it, Scram web and medium cap booster, twin rep including an ancillary, double EA&M, drone damage amp and damage control, although some people drop an EA&M for a second DDA. We use an ACR rig for power grid, a nano pump and a nano accelerator. This fit needs a 1% PG implant, and you should always use an Exile booster with this fit. This fit has 560 DPS with ogres and does 1.5 km a second or 2.1 km a second with heat. This fit has 23.5k EHP plus a 670 Omni DPS tank with heated reps, which drops to 390 heated once the ancillary runs out of nanite. This fit's much slower and less agile, with considerably less DPS, but it has the ability to reposition, speed tank, and potentially escape during a brawl, in addition to having more control and better application on smaller targets due to the web. It has a much reduced burst tank, but can continue running its tank for much longer than the ASB variant. The general idea flying this fit is fairly similar though. 1. Get into scram range, and 2. Melt face, although you have way more options for speed and range tanking, as well as potential escape from bait with your oversized afterburner. To summarize, the Vexor Navy is a top tier brawler for its class, is fairly cheap, super easy to fly, and is definitely my top 3 favorite all-time ships for solo nullsec shenanigans. You can find some examples of this fit in action on stream in the description below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you have any feedback.
Your EVE Online experience is not complete without iwantisc.com, an EVE Online themed casino. Join in-game channel iwantisc and follow instructions. Mining, spin some slots. In Warp, enter a raffle. Campaign in Jita, scratch a card. Prizes from frigates to jump freighters, modules, implants, BPOs and things. Earn ISK by inviting friends, progress your level and complete various achievements. Watch affiliated streamers on Twitch, take part in events and win free stuff. iwantisc.com